Welcome back. All right, so I talked about the Western Conference rookies. Now we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference rookies. So again, alphabetical order, Boston through Washington. That's how the alphabet works. So we're going to start off. We're going to talk about the Boston Bruins rookies first. We're going to start off with Matthew Poitras, who was a topic of conversation a lot early in the season. That did fall off a bit. 27 games, 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points. In Poitras, the Bruins have a forward who has a ton of potential as a two-way forward. He has the offensive side. He has the defensive side. He's really quite good. Again, early in the season, he looked better than I think he has lately, but allowed to go play for Team Canada, that can only benefit him. So looking forward to seeing him when he comes back from Team Canada and, how he's going to look. And remember, if he plays less than half of the schedule, then they don't burn a year towards unrestricted free agency. So if they decide around halfway mark of the season, this doesn't really work, we're going to send him down, then, it's not the end of the world if that happens. He wouldn't be the first one that's happened to if it does. But yeah, we'll see what happens. And the other one, he's still in the lineup, is Johnny Beecher. Now, Beecher doesn't have the same ceiling as Poitras. 31 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points. What really impresses me with Beecher, they're already putting him out to take face-offs in key situations. So he's coming out specially to take face-offs, and then he goes off the ice. The fact that he's doing that as a rookie is insane. Rookies are infamous for not being very good in the face-off circle. And so the fact that Beecher's come into the NHL already quite good at face-offs, he's good defensively. The offensive side is never going to be fantastic with Beecher. I do think there's potential for him to become a 20-goal scorer, maybe a really good third-line center. But yeah, Beecher has become a pretty good player for them, and it does show that with the retirements of Krejci and Bergeron, while it hurts the team short-term, it helps these guys get into the lineup, and it may help the Bruins long-term. All right, Buffalo. So when Buffalo drafted Benson, that was seen as a potential steal at the time, and I haven't seen anything in his game to tell me he's not a steal. 25 games, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. Zach Benson's been quite good for Buffalo. I know Sabres fans have been excited about him since training camp. He's not in the conversation for Rookie of the Year either. But that's the thing. We always get hung up on the Calder Trophy, and I've talked about this in recent years. The guy who wins the Calder Trophy is the one that had the best year as a rookie. It's not necessarily the best rookie overall. It's not necessarily the guy who 5-10 years down the road will say out of that rookie class, he was clearly the best. But yeah, Benson may very well, continue to prove anybody who drafted somebody else ahead of him wrong over the coming years. And I think Buffalo has a keeper with Benson. And I have to put the first initial because otherwise people are going to be like, Eric Johnson. No, Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson, 19 games, no goals, 2 assists, 2 points. Ryan Johnson's that last piece from the deal that brought Tage Thompson in and saw Ryan O'Reilly go to St. Louis. And I think Ryan Johnson's been a solid defenseman for them. Definitely, it took time before he came in, but I think he's been good. So, yeah, we'll see what the upside is with him, but I think he's been good. Buffalo, obviously, is a team that's underachieved. You can't put that on the rookies. That just, it feels wrong to put that on the rookies. Carolina, pretty easy. Carolina, in terms of skating like forwards and defensemen, no. Kochetkov will get mentioned in the goaltending video that I'm going to be doing later on today. But there aren't any skaters, forwards, or defensemen who are actual rookies in the NHL. There are some very good young forwards in Carolina, though, so I don't think the Canes or their fans are all that upset. Now, there's 3 for Columbus. So for Columbus, there are 3 players who qualify as rookies I want to talk about. First off is Fantilli. Now, Fantilli has not been the star right out of the gate that I think was expected. He has played... Oh, I've got the wrong number of games down. I have to have the wrong number of games down. Let me quickly check. So what I had written down was 39 games. Nobody's played 39 games yet, so unless Fantilli's playing 2 games at once, which he's good. But anyways, 35 games for Fantilli, 9 goals, 11 assists, 20 points. So Fantilli cruising along. He may end up with about a 40, 50-point season this year. That's fine. Again, the hype was really high around him. There was debate about whether or not he would be able to keep up with Bedard. But again, comparing yourself to another player doesn't make a lot of sense when it's a rookie. And we do that though. We want to make those comparisons, and that's the whole thing too. People want to declare, well, this guy's clearly a bust. This guy's going to hit. But as I've mentioned before in this video, even sometimes the guy who has the great rookie season may not end up having a great career and end up being an offensive dynamo. And sometimes the guy who has kind of an iffy rookie season becomes that star player. All right. And then the second of the three for the Columbus Blue Jackets is Voronkov. Voronkov, 29 games. He did start the season in the AHL. 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points. I think Voronkov, and I know there were people that were high on him before the season started. I think he's exceeded expectations. And that line with him, Marchenko, and Chinakhov, very good. And it makes sense. We've seen before Russian lines come in and get formed in the NHL, and they just work. And yeah, it's been the case here. And Voronkov, again, flying under the radar in a really, really deep rookie class, and looks like he's going to be a top 6 forward in the NHL going forward. Which brings me to the defenseman I wanted to talk about, because I was like, well, I'm restricting myself to 2 with every team, but I can't do that here because Jiricek has looked quite good too. So Jiricek, forward or defenseman who they drafted high, was it 2021? What are years anymore? But yeah, Jiricek, a defenseman they were pretty high on when they drafted, and I don't think anything's happened with him at the NHL level so far to change their minds on him. I think he's been excellent. Detroit, there's only one guy. There's only one guy who's a rookie that's appeared in the lineup, and what's interesting is he's only played 1 game. And I want to talk about him because Edvinsson was called up the other day by Detroit. I'm excited to see what Edvinsson can do at the NHL level. I think Edvinsson, has all the tools to be a superstar defenseman in the National Hockey League. And Detroit could use that. I think, Seider's been excellent for them too, but having Edvinsson there, once he is 100% ready, and I will say this for Steve Yzerman, he is doing what Ken Holland did 20 years ago. He's not rushing anybody. If a player's not ready, they're not ready. And we'll have the debate, I would think, at some point. If Detroit continues to build that prospect pool, we're going to see some prospects that are asking, are they waiting too long to bring them up? But that's just part and parcel, I think, of how they're going to run things. Florida, I do have a couple to talk about with Florida, but there's not a lot to discuss here. So there's Samoskevich. Samoskevich, just the 3 games, no points for him. And then you've got sort of. When first time I heard it, I was like, that's pretty close to sort of. But sort of, also 3 games, no points for him. Florida's also a team that has a good mix of veterans and young players. So the fact that you've got 2 rookies for Florida that played 3 games, don't have any points, not necessarily a surprise. And considering the pressure on them, with what they were able to do in the playoffs last year, it makes some sense they wouldn't have really prominent rookies at this stage. Samoskevich probably going to end up playing more games by the end of the year, I would think, than sort of, but we'll see. I'm only sort of convinced on that. And I would like to apologize to anybody with the last name sort of, because it to me does sound like sort of. All right, Montreal, just one to talk about from Montreal. But what a story to talk about out of Montreal right now. I don't know what it is with them and defensemen. It just feels like they have just a really, really smart eye when it comes to drafting defensemen. Struble, 15 games, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. He's good. He's good. And this is a Montreal team that already has a lot of defensemen that I've said, they're pretty good. So Montreal's blue line is going to be interesting to watch as the years go by and we see some of these young players really come into their own. Because I think they're going to end up in a really good situation where they just have too many. And they can take some of that strength with that young blue line and maybe turn that into a forward, maybe take that and one of their extra goaltenders and, go out and actually acquire something that could help them get better in the short and long term. But yeah, Struble, I think, has been fantastic. Well, yeah, I'll go that far. Sure. Some of those games, he's been really, really prominent. So, yeah, I know there's only 3 points in 15 games, but he's a defenseman, so that's not the end of the world either. New Jersey, we got 2 for New Jersey, and they're both defensemen for New Jersey, too. So, Luke Hughes, his numbers with the puck are ridiculous. In terms of his ability to hold the puck, his zone exits and everything. He has 4 goals, 12 assists, 16 points in 32 games. Luke Hughes is everything that New Jersey was hoping for when they drafted him. And I think that fans have been quite excited to see Jack and Luke together. I think this is why fans get all excited at the idea of them someday having Quinn and all three brothers playing together. But I went through that with the Stalls, where I was like, well, all the Stalls are going to play together, and then they never did. So I'm not going to make any assumptions that all the Hughes brothers are going to play together either, just in case I'm the jinx. Maybe I'm the reason. Maybe somebody somewhere was like, we could have all the Stalls together. Oh, he said we'd do that? Pff, forget it. And they would be Carolina. All right, Nemitz. Nemitz has been good, and this is part though. This is part of what's going on with New Jersey. So Nemitz, 11 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. They have a young defense, and so you have a goaltending tandem in New Jersey that's put up some subpar numbers, and then you have young defense as well. Maybe with New Jersey, maybe I'll be right on my cup prediction, just not in 2024. Maybe it'll be a 2025 cup prediction. Maybe over the summer, in July and August, they figure out exactly who that starting goaltender is going to be, and we go from there. But yeah, Nemitz and Luke Hughes have both looked very good for them this year. Just again, they're young. There's going to be some mistakes there too. The New York Islanders, only one rookie for the Islanders, which is not a surprise, and that Bolduc's not putting up a lot of points, also not a surprise. The Islanders are known for bringing guys along slowly, so he just has the 1 assist. I don't remember Bolduc making any dumb plays. One thing that I keep in mind with rookies is, did they make a boneheaded play that cost them a goal at the other end? That the puck goes in their net and you can trace it back to them. And so with Bolduc, he doesn't really stand out, which is good. And I'm glad I'm trying to remember which broadcast I was watching where an announcer said we haven't said the name of, and he mentioned a young rookie defenseman. He said that's a sign that he hasn't made any mistakes, that we haven't had to say his name tonight, and that's very, very true. That's a key thing. And so yeah, Bolduc not necessarily prominent for the Islanders, but there you go. New York Rangers, just wanted to talk about with the Rangers as well. Cooley, very physical player. Also some offense there too. 32 games, 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points. I think Cooley could develop into a really solid power forward in the NHL. If that offense ends up translating to 20 plus goals, if the physicality stays where it is or potentially ramps up even further, Cooley looks like he could be quite the player. Similar to like Lawson Krause in Arizona. I would say, yeah, Lawson Krause, like a few more hits than Krause, but there's a little bit of recklessness in there too for Cooley, so maybe the hits come down a little bit as time goes by. But yeah, Cooley's been a lot of fun to watch. Ottawa. So Ottawa's not short on young players. Ridley Gregg, of course, has played 19 games, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. I don't know that Gregg's necessarily lived up to the hype so far, but I mean, again, rookie player, just the 19 games this season, 10 points. It's not bad. For a rookie, that's not bad. Ottawa, really, goal scoring hasn't been the problem in Ottawa. It's been more of a goaltending and a defensive side of things that's let them down, not really the goal scoring so much. So I think Ridley Gregg's been good. And another one I wanted to talk about, Roby Järventie. Järventie got into some games. I want to say like a month ago, he was playing for them. 7 games, 1 assist for them. And yeah, Järventie looks like he's going to be a top 9 forward in the NHL. I don't see any reason why he won't be. Ottawa, it really is a situation right now where I think they're going to have to decide, is this young core good enough? And if they decide no and they decide to trade somebody, that could then help a guy like Järventie or Gregg get more minutes. If they decide, well, we're going to change things up a little bit here. Because this season's been a disappointment so far for Ottawa. They're going to try to turn it around under Jacques Martin. But yeah, and that might favor Järventie and Gregg too, in the instance that Martin says, yeah, this doesn't work, and he wants to make changes, and maybe it gives more ice time to guys who weren't getting as much ice time under DJ Smith. Philadelphia has one of my favorites, Bobby Brink, who should be of the Boston Bruins, and I've been saying it since he was drafted. But you know what? 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points in 28 games. That's not bad. That's pretty good. And I still think Bobby Brink would have looked good in a Boston jersey, but he looks pretty good in a Philly jersey. He's got the 6 goals, 10 assists. He's producing well. Again, I'm not saying that these rookies are error proof, because they're not. But yeah, Brink's been good for Philly. This is a Philadelphia team that's really gone up the standings this year, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. All right, and the other flyer I want to talk about, Forster. There was a lot of hype around Forrester coming into this season from some Flyers fans based on how he played last season, especially how he came in and he played quite well out of the gate. 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points in 32 games. I don't know if Forrester's ever going to be like a top-notch offensive forward, but he's good. Again, good top 9 forward, sure. And he's been in the lineup. And again, with Philadelphia winning as many games as they have, this experience can only be good for young guys like Brink and Forrester. And Philadelphia has a lot of good young players coming up. So if you want to pick a team that could be a bandwagon team next season, Philadelphia may end up being that team. They've done a good job of kind of fixing this. And again, getting Couturier and Atkinson back, well, that will help. Pittsburgh, not a lot here with Pittsburgh, but there are a couple of players worth mentioning here. Pustinen's been good. 7 games, just the 4 assists so far. He's going to get a goal. There's no way he's not going to get a goal. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have a goal over the next couple of weeks. Very prominent when he's been out there. And because his name sounds so different, it's really, it catches the ear, so to speak, for when I'm watching all the games, and it's all kind of crazy. But yeah, he's been getting good minutes. He's been playing well. And the other one, picked up on waivers earlier in the year, Ludwig. Ludwig, 16 games, just the 1 assist for him. And Ludwig, a depth player, but again, rookie, so he's young enough that maybe he develops into something a little bit more. And Pittsburgh could definitely use more young players. We've talked about the aging of the Pittsburgh Penguins and how that affects their future, but if they can get some young players to come in and play well, then that helps. And Puustinen and Ludwig being examples. Tampa Bay, there's not a lot here with Tampa Bay either, and I'm just being honest and upfront about it. But Cole Koepke, when he's played, he's looked solid too. Tampa Bay is very good at developing players. Guys come up, you're like, I haven't really heard of him, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, yeah, he's pretty good. Perbix is a good example of that. They're just very good at developing their players. Morella was up early in the year. The offensive side isn't there with Morella. No points in 14 games, but again, rookie, so you don't want to put a whole lot on him. And we'll see whether or not he's going to be an NHL regular. But playing in the Tampa Bay organization, one of two things seems to be true. Either these players become NHLers and they're solid at it, or they develop them and trade them at the deadline and they become good NHLers elsewhere. Carter Verhaeghe is an example of a player who's developed in Tampa and has become pretty darn good in Florida. Toronto. All right, so Toronto, the first one is obvious. It has to be Matthew Knies. 29 games. 7 goals, 6 assists, 13 points. Knies has been good. He fits in. He can play top-line minutes. And I think Toronto has themselves a keeper with Knies. I also think they found themselves a keeper with Minton. Another player to keep an eye on at the World Juniors is Minton. He had no points in 4 games. He had a strong preseason that earned him that job. And it became pretty obvious early in the year that it wasn't translating to regular season games yet, but it will. It's just a matter of players figuring out how to play in the NHL. It's a lot faster. Players are a lot bigger. It's a completely different experience for players and coming into the NHL than it is playing in any other league. So we'll see how Minton does at the World Juniors. And then we get to Washington. 3 caps. Yep. That's right, Caps fans. You get 3 players here. So Hendrix Lapierre has played 14 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. And you know what? I think he's looked good. I do. I think he's looked good when he's been called up. And I think part of what's helped keep Washington afloat is the play of guys like McMichael, Protas, Lapierre, guys who aren't really, thought of as being difference makers for the Capitals at this point. And it feels like at key times, some of these kids have been developing and producing. Now, Phillips is technically a rookie. It's been a while since he had points, though. 22 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. Early in the year, it looked like he was going to be a really solid addition and maybe a good points producer, but not so much. Just the 5 points in 22 games so far. So with Phillips, I think the jury's still out on what exactly they're going to have here, but he's a young player. They picked him up, and Washington, much like Pittsburgh, could use some youth in their lineup, which brings us to the last one. Now, I'm not putting this on the board just because it's fun to write the name out. It kind of is, though. Miroshnichenko. A lot of excitement around Miroshnichenko. No points in his 3 games, but I do think the production's going to be there. And I think that Miroshnichenko has a ton of potential for the Washington Capitals, too. So we'll see. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Which rookie have you been most impressed with? Which name that's not on the board? Which rookie do you think will be making their debut later this season? But I did try to limit this to 2 per team. I got 3 per team for Columbus and Washington because there was 3 I wanted to talk about. But let me know who you'd like to talk about. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And if you're asking, where's the darn tootin' goaltenders? Yeah, I got a list of 10. That's going to be coming up in my next video, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to you again soon.